Zack Snyder, the man, the myth, the legend. Well, he's not really a myth, and he's not really a legend, at least to some of you. But to some other people, he is a legend. At least he is to me. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. And let me just tell you, when I saw that he was, when I was scrolling through YouTube, just, seeing what was new, and I saw that he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, I lost it. I completely lost it. I love Joe Rogan's podcast. It's great. It was like the cherry on top to my day, because my days are always crappy. But, I like to have at least a cherry on top in my day from time to time, and Zack Snyder on Joe Rogan's podcast was that cherry. Do I make any sense right now? Probably not. But here's the thing. Zack Snyder, as the Snyder man always does, he gets into some heat. He gets into some controversy because of his opinions. And in this case, it was opinions regarding, Batman, the superhero, killing. But the real reason why I wanted to do this video, I was compelled to do it, is because, a lot of other creators were doing it. But I saw some headlines here and there that I didn't really vibe with. And I was watching some of the videos, and, granted, some were good. But obviously, it's fair to criticize anything you want. Obviously, you don't have to agree with the man. But just some of the ways that people, I guess, present their arguments against Zack Snyder, it just seems like they don't understand the guy from a base level. Okay, it just seems like they don't truly understand what he was trying to go for, what his opinion truly is, and I feel like at the end of the day, it's like, they're expressing their opinion, but these people are basically just saying Zack Snyder's way of viewing the world and all of his fans, it's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, it still comes off as if, we're wrong. That, like, even though it's an opinion. You know what I mean? So I feel like Joe Rogan and the interview that Zack Snyder did, they both kind of did all of us a great service, because this honestly it wasn't even honestly an interview. I love Joe Rogan, but like Zack Snyder went on there, and it's like he knew exactly what he wanted to do to rile up everyone, but to kind of really stand his ground. And I really think after this interview and just the way Zack Snyder spoke, what he said, you really cannot hate this man. Like, you really cannot. And you really also cannot bastardize his opinion. You can't, the way that he approaches filmmaking creatively and everything, I don't think you can, after listening to this and what he had to say, for sure at this point, like, you just cannot invalidate his opinion and the opinion of his followers. Like, you just can't do that. So what I've done is I've taken a clip, I've taken a part of the Joe Rogan podcast, and we're going to react and analyze it. And it's specifically the part where Snyder addresses his desire, his terrible desire of having Batman kill people. It's not like he's never done that before outside of Snyder's work. I totally get it. I know the code of Batman not killing. I know. And he knows that too. But anyways, here we go. Before we do though, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and share with your friends. Thank you.
I tend to get in trouble because of I do take a deconstructivist point of view because of Dark Knight Returns, because of Watchmen. If you've read those two comics, it's hard to go back. To like, you want to, and it's because I care that I want to take them apart. Like, I want Batman, like, people are always like, well, Batman can't kill, right? So Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. And they go like, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like, you're protecting your God in a weird way, right?
There we go.
You're making your God irrelevant if he can't be in that situation. He has to now deal with that.
Yeah.
If he does do that, what does that mean? What does it tell you about? Does he stand up to it? Can he survive that? Right? As a God, as your God, can Batman survive that?
I never thought that was canon, that Batman can't kill. But
well, for a lot of people it is.
That seems ridiculous given the circumstances in which he operates.
Yeah, well,
and all the weapons
don't read
that he
the
has.
comments right now. Don't read the comments.
Yeah.
This
seems ridiculous.
Well, I mean, and there's this huge, like, So in Dark Knight Returns, there's a scene where, and I copied it kind of in Batman versus Superman, where he grabs the M60, he busts through the wall, and he grabs the M60, and he's like, the guy's like, in the comic book, he's like got this kid. The mutant has this kid with a gun to his head, and he's like, I'll kill him, I swear I'll do it. And Batman says, I believe you. And he shoots him straight in the head because it's like a no-win scenario. It's like the Kobayashi Maru of, the Kobayashi Maru is that in Star Trek, it's that test they put Kirk through where there's a no-win, right? Because they want to see how you'll react, right? So they say, okay, we're gonna make a scenario, a test scenario where you don't win, where there's no way to win. And in that situation, we find out what you would do in a no-win situation, because if you're going to be the commander of this spaceship, you're going to be in situations where, it's life or death, and especially when there's no tricking it, right? There's no tricking death in this case. And the famous thing with Captain Kirk is he went and hacked the machine and made it so there was a solution.
Yeah.
And so that was his response to the no-win situation, was create a scenario where he wins, which is cool, which is a cool character, that's a cool character move. But like, that's kind of how I felt. That's what they would say, don't do that to Batman. Don't put him in a no-win situation because we don't want to see him lose. Like, we can't see him lose. He has to maintain this godlike status. And that's what the cool thing about Frank Miller. Frank Miller said, fuck it. I want to see who this guy, if a guy, so you're saying to me that I've got a gun to this kid's head, you're Batman, there's no move, there's no trick, there's no throwing the batarang, there's no a dust ball to distract me. Like, I've just got to pull the trigger and I kill this kid. So you're saying in that scenario, what's Batman supposed to do? Right?
Right.
Yeah, he's going to lay down his gun. What's he going to do? Like, it's the guy says to him, I'll do it. I swear it.
I believe you is perfect.
Yeah, I believe you. And
I believe you. Yeah.
So I'm just like, that's where like Frank takes Batman and just tears him in half.
Yeah.
And you've got to now come out the other side of that. And Batman is still the hero. Batman still...
That's what people don't understand.
Does the right thing. He maintains his code, he doesn't change, but like our perception of him changes. And I think that's like I have run afoul of, but a lot of the fandom who have gotten to the same place I have with the characters where they need to test them to like, and I feel like the characters, it's been my experience that the characters have not let us down. Like, these myths have not let us down. You put them to the ragged edge into that scenario and they come out the other side and you're like, fuck yeah, there's a reason why Superman is Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like, he can handle it. He can fucking take it.
There it is, man. He can take it. Okay? Here's the thing. So he said that was like a 4-minute something and change video. He said a lot, but I cannot understand a world where someone watches that video who, you may still think and you may still want to absorb media where Batman does not kill. You may still want that, but I cannot fathom that you watch this video and you're like, screw Zack Snyder's opinion. Like, that's invalidated. It's not valid. How dare you? Seriously, how dare you? Number one, it's an opinion. But number two, the man so eloquently explores the idea of why he thinks Batman should be put in that scenario. And yet you still come out at the end being like, I don't understand that. I'm willing to bet at least half of the people that are shitting on this man's opinion didn't even watch this whole Joe Rogan interview, aren't seeing all this. And this is exactly one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, because a lot of people, they're talking about it, they're sharing, like these, his ideas online, and a lot of people aren't getting the context, and I'm here to provide the context, as much as I possibly can. But here's the thing. Obviously, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Batman kills. A lot of times, sort of in self-defense, In fact, the entire time, basically, out of self-defense. But again, it's not like other Batmans or Batmen have done the exact same thing. Okay, let's pretend like that doesn't happen, let alone the comics. Okay, there's that. I mean, also, Batman v Superman, like Zack Snyder was explaining, it's based off of The Dark Knight Returns, which is literally the epitome of Batman and Superman deconstruction, right? Specifically more Batman. I mean, if anything, Superman is, taken to an extreme. But here's the deal. He said so many great things. There's a thing that he said in the beginning. Why aren't you willing to put Batman, this character, this fictional character that we placed on such a high pedestal and at such a high degree, we have such high esteem, admiration, all of that, love. Why are you not willing to put that character into the toughest of the toughest situations? To put him to the test, to see what he does. But this is the thing. People are not willing to put the things that they love and the things that they hold dear to the test. And this is where we get into, philosophy and religion, right? And the way that people see the world. Because I think if you love something so much, if you respect something so much, if you think that that thing is so powerful and so everlasting, filled with so much legacy and importance, it is a disrespect to that thing to not put them in the most toughest of toughest situations. It's like a parent, trying to raise a kid, You are supposed to be willing to let your child explore, to let your child go into the woods a few times, per se, to deal with the world. Because if you closet that child, if you closet that entity, that God, Batman, whatever, it doesn't grow, it doesn't evolve, and the payoff is not as satisfying. It just isn't. It's so much more satisfying to see something have as much free will as possible and have the environment around them be its own thing. But now, granted, in comic books, in film, in creative decisions, you get to mold a little bit of the environment. Obviously, Zack Snyder, when he was writing Batman v Superman, or when he was doing it with Chris Terrio and David S. Goyer, they were molding the story to fit into a specific vision, right? Of course, like everything is like that. But there is a vision here of deconstruction, of putting the character of Batman, of putting, the thing that we love so dearly, something that we're so passionate about, and putting it in flames and seeing how it reacts. And here's the thing, is that he then follows it up and says, because it's satisfying and it is effective and it evolves the character to see how they react and how they come out at the other end. It's Dante's Inferno. You gotta go through hell to get to heaven. That's the whole idea. And if you look at your own life, that is what happens in your life. You evolve and you grow through adversity. The world, if it pads you around, if it puts Band-Aids all over your body, if you baby something too much, you don't grow. You just don't. Okay, so that it pertains to our real world experiences. You have to face the thing that you fear. You have to face the thing that you have anxiety about. Because that's where the growth is. If you're scared of doing something, it's probably because you should do it. I think, to respond to Zack Snyder and to add to him, I think it is a service to the character. It is completely respecting and sort of, it's putting your faith and trust in this very thing that you love so much, this character, this iconic ass character. And I think people, I don't know. This is my opinion, of course. It's my opinion, but I do think that people, they kind of baby their characters a little bit too much. They baby their idols. They baby the thing. It's like, why? Like, I don't understand. It's also not even realistic. Now, I understand, what are you here trying to make a character like Batman realistic? I mean, yes, he's a human being, but he's not very realistic. I totally, of course, we could sit here all day and be like, these guys are just, guys in tights, whatever. You get my point, though, right? Like, Zack Snyder really, he wasn't the first person to do it, but I think he was one of the pioneers, I guess, of filmmakers, of comic book filmmakers that were willing to sophisticate and put realism into the comic book genre, you know? And I think that should be commended, okay? And it's a different point of view, it's a different way of tackling the character, but it should be commended, and I think I connect with that much more. And here's the thing that he says at the very end. He says, these characters, we do this to them because we want to see how they come out, but they'll come out better, and they'll prove to us why they are who they are. And that is just beautiful. I mean, come on, religious people do this all the time with God, right? When they're being tested, they're like, oh, well, God is testing me. You know, it's a trial, and that means because my life is so hard right now, it means that I should overcome it. It means that God put it on my plate for a reason, right? And so people do it with that, but they don't do it with Batman. Now, granted, I'm not saying every person who's shitting on Zack Snyder is religious and they're all hypocrites. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just sort of pointing an example of how people tend to have the mentality and the approach of Zack Snyder and other things in their lives, but when it comes to filmmaking and art and, superheroes, they don't apply it to that. And it's like, why not apply it to those things? Because superheroes, filmmaking, art, it's a part of our lives. Like, why don't we treat these characters, as they should be treated, as they should be deemed as parts and aspects of our life here on Earth. That's how special these characters are. Movies are special. Characters are special. Fiction is special. Art is special. And it deserves to be treated with sophistication. But he says, it really just was amazing. He was like, hell yeah. Once we see Superman, and that's another thing, Superman got deconstructed to hell, in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. But I will tell you, when he was in that courtroom and that bomb exploded and everyone died around him, and then later he was completely hopeless. He was borderline. He gave up being Superman. I mean, he lost hope. Superman lost hope. That is the ultimate deconstruction of Superman. And then he fights Batman out of rage and anger, and then both clash, and then they get to that point of unification. They both humble each other, and they both just find the motivation and the desire to keep fighting and to fight for the right thing, and they become Superman. He becomes Superman again. Batman becomes Batman again. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And it's our life. That is us. We've done that in our lives. How many times have you done that? Where you were faced with adversity, you struggled with it. You even betrayed your own ideals and values, and at least not fully, but you did to a certain point, to a certain extent where it was uncomfortable for you and you felt like you betrayed yourself. And you had to go through that to become better. It just is what it is. That's why movies are so amazing, because they have struggle. You know what I mean? Like, that's what makes things interesting. Struggle. And it's what makes the climax and the resolution so satisfying, right? That's what makes life worth living. So Snyder says, that adversity, when we put these characters into that's what makes them who they are. They come out on top at the end, and we're like, yeah, we give this to Superman because he can take it. That's what makes him Superman. Truly. Same thing with Batman. He's better than that. He's stronger than that. You don't think Zack Snyder knows that? You don't think so? Like when people say, oh, he doesn't understand these characters. You have to understand the rules. You have to understand the characters in order to deconstruct them. You have to understand the rules in order to break them. It's that simple. You know what I mean? So, with him doing what he did to these characters, they came out becoming the characters that you envision and that you idolize and that you wish he had started with in the beginning. So, yeah, he ends up understanding those characters. He understands them, honestly, in more ways than I even do. And I love these characters in ways that other people do that read these comic books, that grew up with these characters. It's just so baffling to me. And here's the thing, too, of like Batman killing that dude in Batman v Superman, in the warehouse or in The Dark Knight Returns. It's like what Snyder said. He's still Batman when he did that. it was still the best and most right thing to do in that specific situation. And that is the real test. And what you do there, that's how we know who you really are, right? I mean, have you ever, think about this with yourself. Have you ever messed up so badly or messed up at a period in your life where you now look at it retrospectively and you're like, that wasn't necessary for me to be here where I am today? Or that part of me that went through that period, that wasn't me? Sometimes we go through that, right? But you're still you. You know what I mean? Like that, you still went through that. And you might have not been you at that point in time. In many ways, I can agree with you that the Batman in Batman v Superman, a lot of the Batman in that movie was not Batman. And that was the point. Same thing with Superman. And so that happens to us in real life. When we look at some things in our past and we're like, that wasn't me. Or at the very least, that wasn't the best part of me. You know, what I was doing, the decisions I was making, who I was, that wasn't me. And I'm a better person now, or I'm different. I've evolved now, but I can look at it back then and be like, wow, that was not me. I'm glad I'm where I am now. But it's still you. You know what I mean? You still did those things, but you've changed. You've evolved. And you can now judge it accordingly. But it was still you. But see, here's the nuance, right? Is that a lot of the Batman and a lot of the Superman that we saw in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, they weren't the ideal versions of those characters. But it got to a point where specifically, where Batman did kill that guy in the warehouse, he was saving Superman's mother. That whole warehouse scene, Batman had changed. He was on a mission, and he accidentally killed a guy, like in that warehouse scene too, with the grenade. But it's different now, you know? He's on a mission. He is enlightened. You know, he's a better Batman now. And he's still doing all the right decisions. Accidental deaths, you know what I mean? Like the dude is chugging a grenade at him. What the hell is he supposed to do? You know what I mean? And then a dude with a flamethrower says, I will kill her. I swear. I'll do it. And then Batman says, I believe you. You know, and he saves Superman's mom. And he kills that dude because there wasn't any other thing he could possibly do. It's realistic. And yeah, he killed a guy. But that Batman in that point in time was evolved. He was still Batman. You know, he's still Batman when he was messing up. And he wasn't, you know, being the most Batman he could be. He was still Batman. But very far away from that version, that ideal version. And then when it came to the warehouse scene, I'm sorry, dude, but that's still Batman. And he still did the most correct, most righteous, most moral, most ethical thing he could possibly do, given the situation, given the circumstance. And when you can still be who you are, have integrity, when faced with adversity, when faced with a no true win-win situation, if you can still show who you are, still make the best decision you can possibly make in that situation, then you've won. That's when you've truly won. And I will say one last thing, the whole God thing. You know, Snyder, he grew up religious, and it makes sense why he has a lot of religious allegory and metaphor in his films. And he also uses the word God a lot, clearly, from what you can hear. But it's true, everything is related, and I think that in many ways, like iconic characters like Superman, like Batman, people put these characters into cages, right? In the same way that they put God in a cage, you know? Because whenever you go to a person who is very religious, not whenever, I don't want to say that, sometimes, okay, you can go to someone who's very religious and you'll ask them, if God exists, why is there suffering in the world? Why did I suffer? Why does that kid have cancer in that hospital? Why are there orphans? Why are there people who get abused? All of that, right? And then, their answer might vary, it might be like, well, it's God's plan, well, God's not responsible, God gives people free will, all of that, right? But it's like, there's always a reason. There's never like, God might have screwed up he might have screwed up here. There's never that. It's always a reason. It's always like, well, it's this. And it's what the same thing we do with Superman, with Batman. We give excuses. Like comic book writers, like they'll do that with Batman. It's like, oh, well, he did kill that guy, but it was accidental. There's a reason. It wasn't even self-defense. It just happened. The guy happened to fall in a weird way, and that's how it happened. Or with Superman, it's like, he's so perfect that every single scenario where Superman could potentially kill someone inadvertently is somehow just, it disappears. It's gone. It's like, we make sure there's no mistake. Superman is perfect. Don't mess with him. He's perfect. And there's no scenario. You eliminate every possible scenario to make him perfect, right? That's what people do with God. And I think in many ways, and this is me just espousing my personal belief, okay, at this point. I'm not trying to crap on people who believe or anything like that, not at all. I am just, I also grew up religious, as Snyder did. But here's my thought is, if I love this God so much, I should be willing to put this God to trial. Yeah? You follow me? And he should come out on top. He should come out and show me why he's still God after that trial. It's like, tell me, show me, explain to me, convince me why I had to go through that suffering. And a lot of religious people, I will say, a lot of religious people do that. And they have a relationship with God so strong that they come out at the end and they realize why they had to suffer to get to the point where they are today. So, if you love something, don't hold it tight. Don't suffocate it. Let it breathe. Let it convince you. Let it be its own entity in the same way that God created us to have free will, right? To do as we do. To do what we will. And it would be a disservice for God to put us in cages. Right? It would be a disrespect to us. So why do it to Superman or Batman? There we have it, folks. Hopefully this video was enjoyable to all of you, and whether you like Zack Snyder, whether you don't, I'd really like to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of Zack Snyder's take. What do you think of my analysis? Please give this video a like if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. Share with your Snyder-loving or hating friends, if you will. Go ahead. But please write in the comment section below. I really want to see what you guys think. But yeah. Hopefully this video changed some minds, but maybe at the end of the day it doesn't matter. People will believe whatever they want to believe, right? Go ahead and subscribe if you really enjoy this content and you want to see more like this. I might do another video on this Joe Rogan interview because it was really good. Zack Snyder said some great stuff. I mean, it's like again, Joe Rogan didn't even need to really pry Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder got to where he got to. It's like he really needed to do this to clear some stuff up. So I might do another video on that because there's another section of the interview that I thought was really good. Anyways, yeah, I think that's it for me. If it's your birthday, happy birthday to you, you beautiful creature. But other than that, you all take care, stay safe, and until next time, I love you.